Hello and welcome to an introduction to the EnviroScape model. My name is Jim Eckenrode and I'm with St. Francis University. Alright, as a brief introduction to the EnviroScape model, I first wanted just to go through some of the pieces and the parts so you have a good understanding of the model. First of all, the EnviroScape model is a watershed model and it can be used for either both point and non-point sources of pollution. It works really well with both, and it's actually a pretty nice model. The first thing I'd like to talk about whenever I work on this model is what's the difference between point and non-point source pollution. Point source pollution is pollution that comes out of a pipe, so that could be out of an industrial plant, it could be out of a storm drain, anything that comes out of a pipe. Non-point source pollution is a little harder to describe. Non-point source pollution is pollution that is carried across the surface when it rains, snow melts, sleet, whatever. And non-point source pollution is usually pollution that comes from a non-specific site but is picked up as water and stormwater flows across the ground. So, real quick on how to put together your model and some of the key components. First of all, the model comes apart, two pieces. There's a base and a top. You'd want to make sure that the hole lines up here, as well as the hole in the top of the model, so that you can drain the model when you're done using it. The model comes with a lot of really nice pieces. We have an industrial plant here, and you get two bins of pieces. We have an excavator for some of our disturbed areas, tractors for our farm, nice barn, farmhouse, and then we have residential section up in this corner, so we have houses. We have our wastewater treatment plant right here and our two clarifiers. We have bridges for our roads, cars for our roads. And then we have two types of trees. These trees with bases work really well in the residential area. And then if you ever need to affix anything to your model, we can use these pieces of clay. Came with a nice block of clay, so you can put that clay anywhere you want, and you can stand up a tree up here in this area where it looks like they're doing some forestry work. Additionally, we have some cows for our farm. So usually put the cows hanging around by the barn. Obviously you can place them wherever you like. Okay, probably the most important part of your model is remember to put the plug in. If you don't put the plug in, the water and anything else you put on the model will run all over the floor and most likely all over your students. So that's a quick introduction. All these parts come in the bins. I'll get to this bin, it's for BMPs once we get started. Additionally, it comes with some film canister salt and pepper shakers, and then a oil and sludge mixture container. So all those are for putting pollution on our model. One option is to put this tray under here so that it collects the water. You can also turn the model backwards, turn it around so that it fits this direction, and then you can actually drain your water right into the model. I prefer that method because anything I've ever set up front here, if you do this model a couple times over and over for different kids groups and you have all the water draining into a container right here, you usually end up with small kids bumping that container and spilling it on the floor. So I just turn the model around and drain it into the base of the model, or if you have the option of a sink, then you could just empty it out every time. So just a few things to remember. This model is great through all ages, K through adult. It is a watershed model. It covers both point and non-point source pollution. It's plastic, it's really easy. You saw it took just a minute to put together and set up. takes about that long to take it apart. Just remember, when you're done, you're using things like cocoa and Gatorade and Kool-Aid, and they contain sugars. So when you're done wiping the model off, you may actually want to take it home and use some mild soap and clean it, because it will get really sticky. Also, please, when you take it home or back to the office, make sure that you let it all sit out and dry completely, or you will end up getting a sticky and kind of funky model after a while. So make sure you give it a good chance to dry out, and make sure you clean it up. 2 recommendations from the manufacturer are: do not let it sit in direct sunlight all day, and do not let it expose to extreme temperatures, so extreme cold or extreme heat. So use is easy, cleanup is easy. If you have any questions, there is a great manual provided with the model. It's a user's guide. And in that user's guide, on Roman numeral 3, is a list of all your parts. So make sure you have all your parts, and if you lend it to somebody, make sure they go through that list, so they have all the parts that they need for their use of the model. And then if you go to diagram A on page 10, you'll be able to see how to set the model up. And obviously you can make any changes to the model you want, whatever serves your purpose best, but that's the general way to set the model up, and it works pretty well. Okay, thanks.